Alright guys and gals, this is North Shore Preparedness. It is still Monday, October the 11th, 2021, and we're going to talk about more gardening mistakes. There are more successes than mistakes on this particular video, but let's talk about them anyways. This one is about pole beans, okay? So, as you can see, I have my pole beans up there. They grew very, very well for me this year, so they're pretty good and successful. Now, I grew pole beans this year instead of bush beans. I grew bush beans in the ground last year. And this year, last year I lost all of my yellow beans to rabbits. So I thought, to heck with that. I took them out of the ground this year and I planted them in this massive container here, which I affectionately call the yellow bean fortress, as it were. You can see it's got sharp wire on the corners. All of these bamboo skewers I put together to keep the rabbits out. And much to the success, we didn't lose any beans this year. However, and I did grow, not just in this container. Now, as you can see on the top of it, the container has like a makeshift lid. That, excuse me, that was just the lid that came with that shipping crate there. And I put that on top just to keep some of the rain from the roof from trenching out the soil where the bean plants were themselves. But I grew in this container this year. And see if you can see over there. I also grew some in buckets. Actually, you can see a yellow bean right near the top of that bucket, which is awesome. So I grew them in buckets on the porch over on this west side of the building. And I have some more in buckets over on the east side of the building. You see I have them trellised up, and they grew right up to the top of the trellising, the very same way that they did over here. Now, oops, I'm zooming out when I should be zooming in. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so these, for those of you who are wondering, these are a Kentucky Wonder wax bean. And like I say, they grew really, really well. But let's talk about some of the mistakes that I made. Okay, so I planted these. Why did I grow pole beans? So that the rabbits wouldn't get them. Okay, so why did I put them in containers? So that the rabbits wouldn't get them. I'm not sure if it's because of the pole bean or the containers. Probably the containers. Why the rabbits didn't get them. So that's a success. But what I did find is when I started to harvest these beans out and eat them, is I found that I much preferred a bush bean. So for my first mistake, the first mistake of all was planting pole beans. Now I know for next year, don't do that. Do they grow successfully? Yes, they do. They're very, very prolific, which will lead us to mistake number 2. Okay, so you can see how high I built the trellising, and you can see that they grew right up to the top of the trellising. And in this case over here, they grew beyond the trellising and up the eaves trough. So I would say another mistake would be that I didn't make my trellising high enough. Okay, because these things will continue to grow as high as you let them until the end of the growing season. They'll just keep going and going and going. There's like Jack and the Beanstalk, magical bean that reaches up to the sky. That's these guys here. Look at all the extra foliage on the top of this one here. Just looking for a place to go, right? So, for me, that's mistake number 1, planting the wrong kind of bean. Don't plant something that you don't care for. And sometimes you can only do that by experience, okay? So that's mistake number 1, plant what you like. If you've got seeds of stuff that you don't like, maybe trade them out for other stuff. Mistake number 2, not putting the trellising high enough. Now, what I decided to do is, because I preferred the bush beans over the pole beans, is I decided, well, I'll leave these beans on the plants to dry naturally, and then I'll harvest the beans out of it to put into my seed bank. So I thought, okay, we'll do that. And I'm not sure if you can see here, but you can see some of them are starting to turn black, okay? And maybe a type of mold. whichever, I'm not sure. But and I think the reason why they did that is because these yellow beans and green beans will typically have a more fleshy outer coating around the bean than, say, like a pea pod will, right? So they may be turning black because of that, and it may be a type of mildew. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of these off of here, and we'll show you. We'll try and break it open and like see if it's dry enough to break open, and we'll see if we can get into this here. All right, here we go. So we'll just try and crack the. I probably should have brought the tripod out. Doing this one-handed kind of sucks. Okay, so I'm breaking it open a little wee bit. Oop, and there you go. You can see a bean coming out of there. So I can't tell by this bean if it's perfectly dry or not. You want them dry, dry, dry. You can put them in your dehydrator to dry them out, or you can just put them on a paper plate in a windowsill and, you know, let them dry naturally, whichever way you like. My idea was to let them dry on the vine, which these massive wisterias over here, that's what they did last year. The beans the beans or seed pods just dried right on the vines, and they harvested very, very nicely. So I figured I'd do the same thing with these. Now I will find out by doing an experiment by planting some of these next year to see if this black mold or whatever it is on these beans is a mistake. Like, it might be a better idea to harvest them when they're fresh, take the beans out of them, which might be a little bit tricky because it would all be less than firm, you know what I mean? Like these ones that are a little bit drier here, you can see, maybe you can hear how easy that is to crack. Yeah, right there. Oh, and we did get another bean pop out of that one. So that leaving them on the vine to dry may be a mistake. It may not be. You guys and gals, let me know down in the comments if you guys do things differently, or if you just straight up harvest your pole beans, eat them the way that they are because you like them, or you know, if you do dry them on the vine for seed for next year. Let me know if that's a mistake, leaving them on the vine to dry, or if you dry them another way. But this year, as far as beans goes, you know, the combination of planting the pole beans and having them in these containers really, really deterred the wildlife from stealing them all. And so very, very good success. Overall this year, it was successes with beans. My biggest problem, planting the wrong kind of bean and not trellising them high enough. Now those are 10 feet tall. So I mean, like, I got to get out my ladder to get, you know, you can see some beans right at the top of that, right up there. So I'm gonna have to get my ladder out to get some of these beans down. But that's sort of more garden failures that I have for you guys and gals. I hope everyone's well and safe. This is going to be North out for now.